صباح الخير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أهلا وسهلا بكم في اليوم الثاني لقمة الكويت للاستدامة والإي اس جي. اليوم احنا في عنا الجلسة الصباحية راح تتناول 3 متحدثين. المتحدث الأول will be Mr. Dr. Brian Eric. Dr. Brian Eric, let me introduce him. He will present a speech on reports and transparent practices in enhancing investor confidence through ESG. Dr. Brian is a senior sustainability and compliance consultant with over than 4 years of a global experience across the GCC, Asia, and United States of America and Europe. He is specialized in ESG reporting, CSRD compliance, corporate governance, and sustainable building assessment, backed by strong credentials in Lean Six Sigma, PRINCE2. PRINCE2, by the way, is the UK Project Management Initiative, and ESIA. As a leadership instructor and advisor to top executives, he delivers impactful strategies that strengthen organizational performance, sustainability, and responsible business practices. Dr. Brian, welcome to the stage. You have 15 minutes to conclude. Please.
Assalamu alaikum, dear. I'm going to go alone. I'm going alone. Ladies and gentlemen, dear delegates, I am very honored and I thank our ESG consultant or solution for this event. It's great. The context is marvelous. What we saw yesterday was really, really interesting. And I want you, all of you, to say congratulations for the anniversary. Why? Because yesterday, it's 10 years ago, Kuwait signed the Paris Agreement. So 10 years we have had actions, and we will continue so. One of the ways that we prove that we do action is reporting. And about 25 years ago, there was only one type of reporting, the IT standards. And I will try to go through those standards that we need to do or use to prove in a structured way what those we have had, what are we contributing to, as well as as well as how we are actually reporting our achievements of those goals that we have set. So, oh, they have changed it. That's nice. Sorry. Let's move on. So, the thing is, what we are reporting is what we are doing, but we need to know exactly to whom. Because it's important that we actually take the standard that is applicable to what we are doing. And what we are doing is who we are doing it for. Just making a standard, a report, is actually not of a demand. However, for a listed companies and companies that work with finance, there is requirements. And here in Kuwait, that is based in the central bank's requirement system, and for the listed companies, this is stated in Article 117.2 under the Law 42 of the National Assembly. So this is the foundation. And I will try to go through what is legislation, what is required for our customers, as well as what is actually humanitarian standards. In the legislation, it says that the report has to be according to an international standard. It doesn't say which. So therefore, we have an open field for a lot of different standards which we could choose to. But these one, we are all talking about that we want to have return of investment. So therefore, don't use a standard that you're not applicable. Remember, this is all costly, and we don't want that cost. We want to make it profitable. We want to have some kind of return in this investment. But ESG, it is actually a question about the E is the environment. So what impact do the environment have to our operation versus what impact do we actually have in the environment here and there? The floodings that we see in Bali, in the Philippines, the hurricanes, that is a result of climate change. We can discuss that as long as we want, but it's a fact. The social part also comes with two. What is it that we are doing with our near employers and those around us, as well as the society that we have around us? That means the society of the global world. And basically we can say that the G of the government part is how we actually managing in a profitable way to achieve the goals that we set for 1 and 2. So you can see sustainability in 3 different ways, and there is a different kind of see it. My first will be the common part of sustainability is the element of the environment, the social effects, as well as our governments as such. So that means that there will be a crossover, and that is the sustainability. Other people see it as it is a kind of build-up where you are including the ESG, the corporate social responsibility, and then the stakeholders' engagement in and out of our orbit. So, related to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, you can also kind of put those in the mark of ESG, which belongs where? And in the middle, you have number 17 means that we are actually trying to comprehend all of them. It's all based on 2 protocols. And everything that we do with all the standards that we know about, and Jasmine will elaborate more on 2 of them, that is coming from the 2 protocols. The Kyoto, which says that we must do it. It's a high level. That's for the countries. It's for the bigger entities. But mostly it is based on the national determination contribution. Whereas the GHG, the greenhouse gas protocol, is a more tool of how do we actually do the measurement? How do we actually work with the requirements that we need to achieve? And it is really, I'm kind of saying for those who really want to do this, the greenhouse gas protocol gives you a lot of tools. So by all means, go in and look for it and try to learn from it. So the protocol is the treaty between the countries, whereas the GSD is the methodology, how we are going to get there. So the reporting system, and as I said, there's about 10, 12 relevance, and then that is national standards. I'll come back to that. But let's take what is applicable by law. In Kuwait, all enterprises must have an environment social impact assessment. And some companies that is small, it's opening a toy store, they will never be asked to do it. But if Al-Ghani does something, it will be required. If ABC does something, it should be also required. If we are trading with Europe, it will actually also be required that we are following and reporting according to their standards. So that is a requirement as well. The California will, by August 26, also be required. If you are trading with any entities in California, you must follow their rules. Luckily enough, their standard is in compliance with the most other standards that they're using. And of course, as I said before, all banks must follow the national bank's requirements. For those, and I'm a little bit older than you are. So when I was young, there was one standard system. The International Standard Organization, and up until basically to this century, that was the only thing that we had. But they have not been just leaving and put away. What they are doing is that they have developed their system. So today, there is a standard in the ISO system for basically every part of the ESG. There is a standard which basically hits everything that you can relate to in the global reporting initiatives, as well as some of the major other standards. So, for the environment, for the social, there is some specific either guidelines or frameworks. And then you normally also have one with this heading on this one here. If we are looking down to the government, the father of them all, ISO 9001, is basically the one that binds everything together, that is the quality management system. But even for the government, we have now different parts of specific standard which is applicable for what you are doing. And exactly the thing for what you are doing is some of those things that will be reflected in all the other standards as well. One of the things that is binding everything about sustainability together will be 5301, which basically is about United Nations Sustainability Goals. So, yeah, that's the one that we are talking about. Beside that, we have the legislation of the European Union and the Corporate Social Responsibility Directive require that we are following the European Sustainability Reporting System. And that one, depending on how much, then you have to follow. You do not need a new report, but you need to make sure that everything in your report is actually covered or compliant with the standard. So yes, you can use the RI, and then add those requirements to the European standard. But you will be in trouble if you only use CRI and then doesn't add the last part of it. So therefore, we need to make sure that we are following this one here if we want to trade within the entity inside the European Union. And I know Jasmine just arrived. I will not put that much more into this one, but this is my favorite, as I come from the business side. But I will leave that for you. And also, I have a little bit for here. I know you're a specialist in this one here. So I want to put the ones for the capital market. And the capital market has been very confused, and they have tried in all organizations to make their own standards. These standards will be harmonized, but one of the things is that the International Capital Market Association want to kind of make their own, and I do not know if that one will be sustained, because it is, the last version is basically the same as the International Finance Sustainable one, S1 and S2.
Brian,
Yes, sir.
just 1 minute and go to the conclusions, please.
Okay, so there is a number, and I have told that we are on time limit. The partnership for accounting I will not go through, but the principle for reporting investment is for any investment houses here. This one here is the one to go. There is the sustainability, the scientific reporting initiative. The scientific reporting initiative, I heard at BBC yesterday that they have a lot of different trials, and I will kind of say the scientific reporting initiative, they should actually use that one, because that will help them from the stage of trial into action. There was a little thing about 2 weeks ago, the United Kingdom came out with a new sustainability reports system. It's a little tiny thing about 466 pages. So no, I have not yet read it. But that is actually if you want to go to UK for working. The California is a little bit limbo because California is part of the United States. The United States has all the standards, but California said no, you have to comply with us. That will be applicable from August 26th. This minute, you will take this one here. The last two I will touch briefly is for construction and buildings. There is two significant, the LEED, as well as the based in Qatar, the Global Sustainability Reporting for Constructions. And they have pros and cons, but the DSAS is for this climate group. So that is something that if you are constructing anything, we should actually use that one. Don't worry, we will deal with you all the way. And
Thank you. Thank you. حول تقييم ترابط المياه والطاقة والغذاء في دولة الكويت من ناحية التحديات والفرص. وأنا يسعدني أن اليوم أرحب في جلسة اللي أنا موجود فيها حاليا بالدكتورة أمان العدواني اللي راح تعطينا insight issues حول الوضع في الكويت. تفضل. You have 15 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy and glad to be here today. And it's an honor to be part of this conference. Hopefully, presents a valuable insight of water, energy, food mixes in the state of Kuwait. Firstly, let me introduce the title of my subject. It's wireless. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. No, it's okay. The title is Assessing the Water Energy Food Mixes in the State of Kuwait, the Challenges and the Opportunities. Firstly, let me define the water energy food mixes as a definition or as a concept or approach. Simply, I can define it, water energy food mixes. Simply, I can define it, to produce water, energy is needed, and to produce food and water and energy are needed. Finally, to produce energy, water is required. And as we know, Arab countries like GCC countries are known to be energy intensive and water scarce, so that many factors are creating the water, energy, food security in the state of Kuwait, such as dramatic population growth, unsustainable consumption patterns, and rapid economic development. So that we need the nexus thinking and approach to reduce the trade-offs and to increase the synergies between the three sectors. Let me go through the research problem. The main problem of this research is, unfortunately, currently the three sectors are managed and planned and governed separately, so that we have to think about the way nexus to reduce the trade-offs between the three sectors and to build the synergies between the three sectors. There are many objectives of this research. Firstly, quantification of the relationship between the three sectors, then development of quantitative assessment framework for water, energy, and food mixes, then proposing web nexus policies that can increase the synergies and decrease the trade-offs between the three sectors. To achieve these objectives, we had to adopt some methodology. So, phase one, firstly, we identified available data and information on web nexus and state of Kuwait. Then, identified the web nexus, the critical interdependencies in Kuwait. And we developed a representative web nexus model for the state of Kuwait. Finally, development and analysis of future scenarios. In terms of the future scenarios, we built a different scenario that represents the future projection, like a business as usual scenario with renewable energy and also with the impact of climate change. Then we established scenario representing various potential policies in the three sectors, and then we made the conclusion and recommendation. Water, some water. In this research, our tools was QNexus tools, which is quantitative tools based on input and output. For example, the input was end-use demand values and intersectoral use intensities, and the output, the direct and indirect internal sectoral resources and web nexus indicators. I will walk you through the results, and this table shows reference scenario results based on many indicators such as total energy demand and total water demand, financial cost, economic cost, and then desalinated cost and the environmental cost for the desalination. This slide shows the 4 scenarios based on each sector. For example, water sector include per capita reduction scenario, then switching to more efficient scenario, and the energy scenario includes switching to more efficient fuel. Then food scenario includes irrigation efficiency. That means we are increase the irrigation efficiency, and we are combine all the scenario to one combined scenario. This table shows associated costs of all scenarios compared to the reference scenario. And we can see here the per capita reduction scenario is the most effective scenario. There is a saving and reduction in energy and in total demand in desalination water of about 55%. Consequently, the environmental impact of this reduction will reduce at the same percentage. The final scenario is the combined scenario, and we can see a huge saving and a huge reduction in all indicators, such as total energy demand. The saving would be 89%. And in terms of total water demand, the saving would be around 67%. And the final saving would be in desalination water, which the saving would be around 61%. Consequently, the other environmental impact will reduce at the same percentage. In conclusion, we have to focus on the domestic scale and domestic sector. So we see the reduction of the per capita water consumption is the most effective scenario, so that we have to focus on the municipal water sector, and we have to put the mitigation policies on this sector, so that it is important to implement mitigation strategies in the municipal water sector throughout effective demand management tools, such as reducing per capita water consumption, restructuring the water tariff system, water conservation programs and education, and finally awareness campaigns, and also increasing the share of renewable energy. This research subject to many limitations and gaps, and one of the main limitation, the knowledge gap limitation, so that it is important to enhance the coordinated management between the three sectors by integrated planning and management to reduce trade-offs and building synergies across three sectors. And finally, this research is the first step that to be completed in future, where enhancement on data and accuracy should be done in future works. And thank you for listening.
دكتورة أماني على هذا العرض القيم وعلى هذا البرزنتيشن اللي أطلت على 3 مواضيع أساسية: المياه، الطاقة، والبيئة. متحدثتنا الثانية أو الثالثة اليوم في جلسة اليوم من بلدية الكويت. والحقيقة اليوم احنا بننظر لوجود بلدية الكويت معنا هي إضافة نوعية لهذا المؤتمر، من حيث إنه البلدية مسؤولة عن نظافة المدينة من ناحية أساسية، موضوع التنظيم، كل القضايا اللي بتتعلق بتنظيم المدينة من ناحية الترانسبورتيشن ومن ناحية الرخص المهن والأمور المتعلقة فيها. احنا بنهدف من هذه المشاركة عدة أمور. أول أمر إنه يكون في كومبلاينس ما بين متطلبات المدينة وما بين معايير الESG. واليوم احنا معنيين إنه تكون كل مبانينا هي مباني موفرة للطاقة، مباني موفرة الطاقة. لما نقول عنها بنحكي عن المياه، بنحكي عن الغاز، بنحكي عن الكهرباء، بنحكي عن كل هذه الأمور. احنا بنأمل إنه تكون متطلبات التنظيم تنسجم تماما مع هذا المعايير اللي موجودة في الESG، وخاصة إنه في سيرتيفيكيشن عالمية. قبل شوي كان يحكي بريان عن الجي ساس، في الليد، في البريم، في الNBK. وغيره من هذه المعايير الموجودة عالميا. محاضرتنا راح تكون المهندسة زهرة الكنكوني، هي مهندس مدني أول في بلدية الكويت، وتحمل بكالوريوس في الهندسة المدنية، وكما فهمت في تخصص الانفيرومنتال انجينيرنج، خبيرة في الهندسة البلدية وحلول النفايات المتكاملة والتخطيط العمراني المستدام. ستقدم اليوم برزنتيشن حول موضوع ما يعرف بالاقتصاد الدائري أو السيركولار ايكونومي. طبعا أنتم بتعرفوا إنه في عنا two ways موضوع we have either linear economy and circular economy. What we are achieving إن شاء الله circular economy. فراح تقدم المهندسة زهراء محاضرة حول تطبيقات الاقتصاد الدائري وإدارة النفايات على المستوى البلدي في مدينة الكويت. رحبوا معي بالمهندسة زهراء الكنكوني.
السلام عليكم، يشرفني أكون معاكم. السادة الحضور، يشرفني اليوم أطرح لكم موضوع إدارة النفايات الصلبة وعلاقتها مع الاقتصاد الدائري. احنا من بلدية الكويت، قطاع المشاريع، إدارة البيئة، من مراقبة الدراسات والمشاريع البيئية. اهتمامنا أن احنا نحسن البيئة ونقلل من التلوث قدر الإمكان. والاقتصاد الدائري في إدارة النفايات هو موضوع محوري، لأن مشكلة التلوث هذه مشكلة قاعدة تتفاقم بدول مجلس التعاون الخليجي، ونحتاج نحل هذه المشكلة عشان تعزيز الكفاءة إدارة الموارد وتحقيق رؤية الكويت نحو تنمية مستدامة، بحيث احنا نحافظ على البيئة وندعم استدامة مواردنا الوطنية. هذه المواضيع راح أتطرق لها اليوم بإذن الله. أول شيء راح أعرف لكم إدارة النفايات البلدية الصلبة، مكونات، ثانياً مكونات النظام المتكامل، مفهوم أهمية الاقتصاد الدائري وعناصر المنظومة المتكاملة للاقتصاد الدائري، وسائل تطوير إدارة النفايات. راح أختمها لكم بالمشاريع البيئية اللي عندنا ببلدية الكويت اللي تسهم في تدعم التنمية المستدامة. أولاً إدارة النفايات البلدية الصلبة، اللي هي تشمل النفايات التجارية، الزراعية، المنزلية والصناعية غير الخطرة. تعتمد الإدارة الحديثة على التعامل مع النفايات منذ نشأتها، اللي هو تكونها في المصدر، إلى معالجتها النهائية بطرق علمية آمنة وحديثة. والهدف هو تحقيق مفهوم زيرو ويست، اللي هو أن نوصل لمرحلة ما في أي إنتاج للنفايات، وتقليل كمية النفايات المردومة قدر الإمكان، بحيث أن احنا نوفر بالمساحة اللي قاعد نستخدمها بالردم، بما يحقق إدارة بيئية أكثر استدامة. ولتحقيق إدارة فعالة للنفايات نحتاج إلى نظام متكامل لإدارة النفايات. شنو المقصود بالنظام المتكامل؟ أول شيء أن النظام لازم يكون يشمل رؤية واستراتيجية وطنية واضحة. ثانياً تقييم دقيق للوضع الحالي للتلوث والنفايات. ثالثاً اللي هو بناء قدرات الكوادر المختصة. رابعاً اللي هو نحتاج تحديث التشريعات والقوانين بما يناسب الممارسات العالمية في مجال الإدارة البيئية المستدامة. والآن ننتقل إلى مفهوم الاقتصاد الدائري. الاقتصاد الدائري هو جزء من المحور الأساسي اللي هو الاقتصاد الأخضر، وهو نموذج اقتصادي يهدف إلى تقليل النفايات وتعظيم الاستفادة من الموارد عن طريق أولاً اللي هو إعادة الاستخدام، ثانياً إعادة التدوير، ثالثاً تصميم مستدام للمنتجات. ويعد هذا النموذج ركيزة أساسية في تحقيق اقتصاد أخضر مستدام يحافظ على الموارد الطبيعية بدال من هدرها. أهمية الاقتصاد الدائري مثل ما هو موضح بالشارت، أن احنا نحتاج دائرة حيث أن إنتاج النفايات ما يسبب لي أي مشكلة بالبيئة. بداية اللي هو أهميته يتكون من تقليل الانبعاثات والتلوث، دعم الابتكار وخلق فرص عمل جديدة، تعزيز واستغلالية الدولة في مواردها، وآخراً المساهمة في تحقيق نمو اقتصادي مستدام يعتمد على كفاءة استخدام الموارد وحمايتها. ولكي يعمل الاقتصاد الدائري بكفاءة نحتاج أن احنا ندعمه بمنظومة متكاملة، من حيث أن احنا نقيم الوضع الحالي للنفايات، ومن ثم نضع أهداف وسياسات واضحة، ونصمم تصميم مستدام للمنتجات بحيث أن احنا نعيد استخدامها أو أن احنا نعيد تدويرها بدال لا نرميها بالنفايات. ونحتاج برامج توعية مجتمعية، وأنا بالنسبة لي هذه أهم نقطة، لأن المنظومة المتكاملة تبدأ من التوعية. ونحتاج متابعة وتحسين مستمر للأداء، وآخراً دعم الابتكار والتكنولوجيا. وسائل تطوير عملية إدارة النفايات، عندنا 5 أركان، وكما هي واضحة بالهرم من الأكثر تفضيل إلى الأقل تفضيل. أولاً منع النفايات من المصدر، مثل ما ذكرت أن إحنا لازم نحط تشريعات وقوانين بحيث تجبر المستهلك أن هو يقلل إنتاج النفايات قدر الإمكان. ثانياً إعادة الاستخدام للمنتجات، إعادة التدوير وتحويل النفايات إلى طاقة، وآخراً اللي هو الردم الصحي. هذه السلسلة المتكاملة تمثل نموذج عملي لتحقيق تنمية بيئية وتقليل التأثيرات السلبية مثل التلوث البيئي واستهلاك الموارد واستهلاك الأراضي. لا يمكن لأي منظومة أن تنجح بدون التوعية والتثقيف البيئي. احنا بالبلدية قائمين على هذا الركن، وبس يعني في احتياج لدعم من الجهات الأخرى. في مهتمين في الحملات الإعلامية، عندنا أفرقة تروح المدارس والمجمعات والجامعات بهدف التوعية البيئية، وإضافة إلى تدريب كوادر البلدية وإعداد أدلة وبروشورات واضحة لبرنامج الفرز. التوعية هي حجر الأساس لبناء سلوك مجتمعي يدعم البيئة ويحافظ عليها. أخيراً وليس آخراً، هذه بعض المشاريع اللي تقوم عليها البلدية وتسهم في إدارة مستدامة للنفايات، مثل مشروع المردم الصحي في منطقة تشب، وإحنا قائمين عليه، اللي هو نصمم وننشئ ونشرف على مردم صحي ضمن الاشتراطات البيئية والصحية العالمية. ثاني مشروع اللي هو تحويل النفايات البلدية الصلبة إلى وقود جاف، يتم استخدامها في أفرن مصانع الإسمنت اللي هو الRDF مع شركة إسمنت الكويت. ثالثاً اللي هو عندنا مذكرة تفاهم بشأن مشروع معالجة وإدارة النفايات الصلبة اللي هو في مردم جنوب دائري السابع مع شركة إنرتك، اللي هو الهدف منه تحويل النفايات إلى وقود عضوي. وأيضاً قامت البلدية بإنشاء دليل إرشادي لإدارة النفايات، وبلدية الكويت تم الموافقة على الدليل الإرشادي اللي هي قامت فيه من قبل بلديات مجلس التعاون الخليجي. إن شاء الله هذه أول خطوة نبتدي فيها. ختاماً أشكركم على حسن استماعكم، وهذا السلايد يتضمن بعض الشركات الرائدة في الكويت بمجال إعادة التدوير. أتمنى أن تكبشرونا وتستفيدون منا وتساعدونا على الوعي في البيئة. يعطيكم العافية.
الثانية راح أيضاً يكون فيها 3 محاضرين، الأستاذة ياسمين غلوم والدكتور أحمد بن نخي من كسر ودكتور برايان إريك. طبعاً أنا اسمحوا لي أن نرحب الآن أولاً بالأستاذة ياسمين غلوم اللي she will deliver a speech on global accounting standards GRI or Global Reporting Initiative and IFRS S1 and S2 and their role in enhancing transparency and sustainability. واسمحوا لي اني اقدم ياسمينة اللي هي خبيرة بالESG Solution بشركة الESG Solution. She is a senior sustainability officer with an over than 4 years of experience in sustainability finance, ESG integration and climate disclosures. She was at NBK Bank. She combines her expertise in ESG frameworks with a background in psychology and neuroscience to drive behavior change, strategic alignment, and effective sustainable policies. She was skilled in bank-wide reporting, sustainable capital allocation, and ESG change management. She supports the transition toward resilient, low carbon, and inclusive growth. رحبوا معي بالأستاذة ياسمين غلوم.
جميعاً. My session today is about ESG reporting and green finance and the importance of the role of reporting and disclosures in driving the ESG agenda. Can you put the slides? Okay. So, before I get into the details of this, we're going to discuss mainly two dominant reporting frameworks in the global ESG landscape. So if we think of ESG as the business language of sustainability and driving climate action, and how that kind of transparency and disclosures is very important in allocating capital and quantifying risks in measured ways that would encourage stakeholders, governments, decision makers to achieve the targets that have cascaded across the economy. فمبدئيا, just to recap, we've been speaking من أمس اليوم about the Paris Agreement, the national commitments, الاتفاقية المناخية اللي وقعتها almost 197 countries in Paris, ومن هذه الدول طبعا مجلس الخليج. As basically the Paris Agreement is an international mechanism that governs the operationalization of climate action across different sectors and different industries by informing the exact ways that they will be mobilized. Under the Paris Agreement was established to support the implementation of the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The goals existed already, but there had to be a way to govern how this would be standardized across the global economy and the mechanisms that will govern this. So at the time, of course, the adoption of such sustainable development goals كان مندرج تحت national commitments as each country signed this agreement. منهم طبعاً دولة الكويت that committed to carbon neutrality by 2060 across all sectors and in the oil and gas sector by 2050. So to support and guide the level of disclosure and data insights required for countries to begin considering regulating such dramatic and, let's say, in a sense, could be disruptive transition, was the GRI initiative. Okay, the GRI focuses mainly on impact and society. It's a way for businesses, the climate issue and the climate action agenda is driven by these 17 goals. The level of responsibility associated with each industry and how they contribute to the global landscape around this issue is different between the oil and gas sector, between the automotive sector, between the real estate, construction sector. So it's very important to understand exactly how does each sector impact business and impact the local economies and the global economy from the climate standpoint before it can be quantified into numbers that we can actually do something with. Okay, so impact materiality, which actually was touched upon earlier in the session this morning, the concept of double materiality, which is now emerging as we have an impact, we are able to measure impact materiality. So the GRI measures this impact from different companies in different sectors through something called the materiality assessment. Okay, I'll get into more details of that. And then the financial materiality is important, that after we understand what is the impact of each industry on the global climate action agenda and the different responsibilities that are cascaded, we have to quantify both the risks associated with that transition in order to allocate the capital required. Okay, so as I explained earlier, the Paris Agreement gave rise to such voluntary frameworks to create a standardized approach where you have comparative data. It's no use if every organization or every industry started developing or issuing their own reports with their own data. They could only be so valuable before we get to the challenge of this is not comparable data, this is not standardized data that could be compared for progress, that could be tracked to identify real challenges and real-time problems that would require business disruption or capital allocation. So, as you guys see here, the GRI is one of those standards for materiality. Once every organization understood its materiality, I mean, it's a timeline that I'm trying to walk you guys through. Frameworks like PCAF and TCFD were established for also voluntary, for organizations that wanted to begin measuring their partnership basically for carbon accounting financials. Okay, they started understanding how much emissions are associated with their investments, emissions associated with loans that banks were giving out. That's why a lot of this had to start with the banking sector. Right? Before companies can do anything or allocate capital to projects or build business proposals, you have to make it bankable. And the bankability of it has to be studied because no one wants to lose their money in risks that no one knows when or how it will happen. And so that takes some time. So a lot of organizations adopt or have adopted these frameworks voluntarily over the past decade, I would say.
There, surprisingly, the president presented 30 action plans and says, no more discussion, it's time to implement. So the cup of trust was called, and what I'll try to do here is that I'll try to present those action plans that was presented there and agreed upon. It turned out that the different kind of nations thought that it was a layup for discussion because it ended a little bit different. However, it is based on the root of our 17 sustainability development goals. So therefore, there is some lines between what we are doing. Each country should submit at least every second year their national contribution to achieve a net zero in 2050, some countries 2060s, but the core is that we try to find a common consensus of progress. And the president this year says we try to make a path forward in 6 different axes or areas. Something on tradition, energy industry as transport, stewarding forest, ocean and biodiversity, and the third one, transforming agriculture and food system. It was very clear that this year was a question about Brazil really have to deal with the lungs of the world and their food security. Building resilient citizens, one of the key examples we have here is that Kuwait itself is one of those that have the most significant heat islands because of our heat itself, and the tarmac here provide an extreme reflection to our buildings, and therefore we are building up the climate impact to it. Foresting, human and social development. It was a very significant impact. The third day we had the Brazilian indigenous tribes. Some of them came in with a little traditional way. The police didn't find it that traditional, so they were taken out by force. But other was actually telling a very, very heartbreaking stories about how the climate had impacted the Amazon people. And then unleash the enablers, the accelerators, including the finance and the technology capacity building. And we have seen today from what the Sagaya is one of those projects which basically is a standard project for other to be developed. I will kind of say, when we are looking at what Saudi is doing with their solar panel system, they have looked at worse. So yes, therefore. So these impacts, and I'll go through the 13 in a moment, they are fitting into the 17 development goals that we have seen before today. So transition in energy, industry and transport, tripling renewables, so there's more for you to work with, doubling the energy efficiency, the KBC people, one of them is here, and well as we accelerating zero and low emission technology, ensuring universal access to energy. I happen to be, my biggest pride of my heart is that I have a little project in Malawi that is about 250 kilometers away from the nearest grid. And they will not get electric power unless we make solar panels on location. But imagine that with this project, people 250 kilometers away from the nearest grid have electricity for the school. Then there was one point, transitioning away from fossil fuel.
Or Arab countries. It is from several countries, producers and consumers, saying that also asking for private sector, as we, and I'm also a speaker of Arabic group in adaptation subjects and also loss and damage in both subjects. What we are facing in COP and negotiation, that developed countries, they are not fulfilling their mandate